Question is like this. If God keeps all the mitzvahs, how do we understand a mitzvah where the mitzvah is very physical? Like the mitzvah not to wear clothing that has mixtures of linen and wool. So I don't know the answer to the question, but I can give a hint of what the answer would be. If you take a ping pong ball, which bounces and it's light and you can press the sides of it and it'll pop back out again, you take a ping pong ball and you drop it into liquid nitrogen. When it hits the liquid nitrogen, the entire ping pong ball is transformed, and if you pull it out and you drop it and it hits the ground, it will shatter like glass. So it's the same ping pong ball, but in the world of liquid nitrogen, it moved from being this spongy, soft, bouncy thing to being a piece of glass. The form became very different. The same is true in transitions from the non-physical world, where there is no physicality. That's the world outside of our world, the world that our world sits in. That would be the divine world. When things move from that world into our physical world, when they hit the liquid nitrogen of Olam Haza, of this world, they take on a new form. So for example, we know that God wears tefillin because the tradition talks about how God put Moshe in the cleft of the rock, walked past him, and Moshe saw the knot on the back of the head tefillin that God was wearing. Now, was it Rashi or Benu Tam? What did the knot look like? Yeah? So the answer is that there's a thing called tefillin. God wears tefillin. God's tefillin is not made of leather because God's not physical. But if you take tefillin and you drop it into the physical world, when it hits the liquid nitrogen of Olam Haza, it takes on this form of black boxes made of leather. That's true with all the mitzvahs. The mitzvah exists in the spiritual realm. When it hits this world, it suddenly takes on a physical form. Now, it's not, the tefillin that we wear are not a representation of God's tefillin. The tefillin that I put on this morning are God's tefillin. I was wearing God's tefillin, the exact same tefillin. And if you could look at me with glasses of truth and see the spiritual reality in front of you, you would see what I'm actually doing, and you would see some spiritual thing that I'm doing. But in this world of physicality and action, it looks like a black box on my head. That's what it looks like. The same is going to be true about a halacha like shatnez. You shouldn't mix linen and wool. Mixing linen and wool is what happens when you take a certain spiritual truth and you drop it into the physical world and it comes out like, boom, linen wool. But linen wool is just the physical clothing on a spiritual mitzvah that God is also keeping. What does it look like for him? I don't know. Oh, that's a great question. The question is like this. This is just going back a moment. We said before that when tefillin comes down into the physical world and it hits this world, it poof takes on this physical form of being a black box. So human beings don't always remain in the degraded physical state that we're in right now. A human being moves from the world that we're in right now into a world called Olam Haba. In Olam Haba, then, although there's physicality in that world, there is physicality in that world, but suddenly the spirituality that a person created during their lifetime is released, and the spirituality that was created by their struggles is released, and the spirituality is so bright, it's so tremendous, that when you look at somebody in that world who achieves something spiritual in this world, the spirituality is so bright you might not even be able to see their body, because their soul is so, and the light that the soul is generating is so dominant. So the question is, what does a person look like when they leave this world and go to that world? They on one extreme, they look like brighter than the sun, assuming that they made tremendous struggles. And in the other extreme, they might look like a piece of flesh, because they didn't succeed in their struggles. And then there's not much there. There's just a piece of flesh.
You're saying the measurement is the struggle.
And the measurement is the struggle.
You go up there, what you got left is the struggle.
When you get up there, all you have left is the struggle, and that's actually an explicit passage in our tradition. It says, Lefum tsara agra. According to the struggle in someone's life, that is the reward. When we say that is the reward, what we mean is that is their status in the next world. That is the essence of who they are, is their struggle. So yes, the only thing that's important is that when you're presented with a choice, no matter how difficult it is, make the right choice. And people are presented with different types of choices in life. Some people have an opportunity to get wealth. Some people have an opportunity to get wisdom. Some people have an opportunity, right, to be involved in communal leadership. Some people have an opportunity to just take proper care of a family. And each person, given where they fall, has to make sure that they continually make the right choices in their life. But ultimately, that's what determines whether or not they're great, not their superficial physical circumstances.